This is Pat Soundbites Unplugged. The podcast where all the artists go to tell it as it is. Careers, music, tours, and more. And here's your host, the man that refuses to eat squid, Pat Calamari.
Pat Calamari here. Yes, the host of Pat Soundbites Unplugged. Episode number 67 is actually a funny one. Talk about technology. Got a chance to talk to Mr. Chris P, as in Philip James, of the Burrito Brothers. Great rock band, although they're kind of listed as a country rock band. And I laughed because when Chris contacted me, Chris calling from his home in Nashville, we had all kinds of phone issues. What a way to start the day. But we finally got through, and we chuckled and had some laughs about it. And then just about the end of the interview, guess what? We got disconnected. So I had to call Chris back on another line. But it all worked out. Great album they just released in March. It's called the Notorious Burrito Brothers. Got some really good tracks on there that I'm going to certainly play on my show on WBXO. Keeping new music alive on the radio airways is what I do. So sit back, buy the album, The Notorious Burrito Brothers, from the band Burrito Brothers. It's all really good stuff. And a great guy and a great chat. A lot of fun. So again, sit tight, live, love, and gotta laugh. Laugh a lot. Enjoy. Here's Mr. Chris P. James, as in Crispy James.
Hi, this is Chris P. James of the Burrito Brothers, and you're listening to Pat Soundbites Unplugged with Pat Calamari.
WBXO Classic Rock Redefined in conjunction with Pat Soundbites Unplugged podcast. And keeping new music alive on the radio airways, it's a pleasure to have on our line lead singer, keyboardist, and harmonica player, Mr. Chris P. James of the rock band, the Burrito Brothers out of Nashville. What's going on, Chris B.? Chris P.
Well, we are. Thank you, Pat Calamari. It's very nice to be on your show. I appreciate it.
How's it going? You surviving this whole lockdown thing down in even in Nashville?
Yes, doing all right. Can't really complain. It's I feel that I can count my blessings. I don't have it as bad as so many other people. We got our album out just before the whole shutdown took place. It would have been heartbreaking if we'd have spent all last year making an album and got it signed in November and got a release date for early March, only to have it all held up. But ours squeezed out before that all happened. And now I've been, though in isolation, doing a lot of talk like this. Getting to feel like I've got something to pay attention to and to keep me occupied, even though we're stuck inside our home, my wife and I, and 2 cats and a dog.
Well, Chris, as Chris just mentioned, Chris and his bandmates, the Burrito Brothers, have just released a brand new album of new music entitled The Notorious Burrito Brothers, and I love all the tracks on it. I've been listening to it a couple of times. It was released worldwide on the Store for Music and MVD Entertainment record labels, as Chris said, in March, and you guys squeezed it in. So congratulations on that, Chris. Before we get into the new album, talk to me about, and you were just getting into that before we hit the record button, talk to me about this band's amazing legacy, which my notes here say formed back in 1968 as the Flying Burrito Brothers, with the classic lineup of the late Graham Parsons and former founding Byrds bassist Chris Hillman and drummer Michael Clark. Tell me about these guys and how this all really came about that you know of.
Well, in 1968, Barry Tashin from the Remains and Ian Dunlop, who had been in the International Submarine Band with Graham Parsons, started playing around town in a bar group that just had different people sit in. Oh, they had Billy Briggs, also from the Remains, playing with them, and people like Leon Russell and Delaney Bramlett and Jesse Davis and Graham Parsons would sit in and play with these guys who called themselves the Flying Burrito Brothers. and when Chris Hillman split the Byrds, pretty much he and Graham at the same time, not exactly together partying, but the next thing they both did after Sweetheart of the Rodeo, after being in the Byrds, was starting their own version of the Flying Burrito Brothers, got a deal on A&M Records, and put out the bona fide classic, The Gilded Palace of Sin, in 1969. And Graham himself jokingly laughed about the fact that they stole the name from that group Ian Dunlop had given the name to. He also named the International Submarine Band. I'm not sure why those guys thought that was such a attractive name. It sounds kind of crazy, really, like some sort of Mexican circus act or something. But they were clearly enamored by it, because the Byrds album of 1968 was called The Notorious Burrito Brothers.
Oh, wow.
Great album. And they were actually tossing around this name, Flying Burrito Brothers, and it morphed into that in order to be used as a title for a Byrds album. So the reason our album now, 50 years later, is called The Notorious Burrito Brothers is to draw homage, a salute, a nod to all of that, to where it all began.
Very good, very cool. And it's listed that the band, and as we talked before about its different genres, it says, helped put country rock on the map. And I think of this band, I think of the Eagles, and the Eagles is a rock band. I think of Pogo, they all have little different influences from the different musicians. So to say country rock, I classify it as rock. I mean, that's that whole era around the same time, right at the end of the 60s and early 70s, of hippie rock groups that incorporated the country aesthetics, the pedal steel guitar or the harmony approaches. It was like Graham's biggest mission seemed to be to turn on the rock crowd, people like the Rolling Stones and Keith Richards, or at least their audience, to the idea that country wasn't all a bunch of old fogies and closed-minded, that there was some nice stuff about the sounds, and so they incorporated it. The whole idea was to pitch that stuff to the hippie audience, to the rock audience. They were never marketed in country music. They were marketed in rock. And they just created a hybrid, and it eventually caught on. It actually wasn't that successful at first, but it sure, at least by the Flying Burrito Brothers, it sort of fell under the radar, and then got glorified to the max over the intervening years since then. But there were groups like Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Grateful Dead. Yeah,
a lot of groups and artists who sounded country-ish and were being pitched to the rock crowd.
Yeah, no doubt. And Graham apparently good friends with Keith Richards, and Burrito Deluxe contains Wild Horses, and it was released even before the Stones released it on Sticky Fingers.
Yes.
So, I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, except the one sad thing, kind of, is that Jagger and Richards only let them do it on the agreement that they wouldn't release it as a single. And my thought is, I'm not sure why they were so protective of that. Had the Burrito Brothers gotten to release that as a single, it probably would have been a pretty big hit.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get royalties for it, right? So
yeah, and looking back now, that means it would have been the only hit, unless that had opened some sort of doors for future ones. But one of the hard things for the subsequent 50-plus years of ongoing Burrito Brothers is that the group has a great reputation as a quality outfit that made great albums, but just the general public, classic rock radio doesn't really have the entry of the one big hit or a big hit from back in the day. You know, maybe they could. that might make sense. A classic rock programmer could play Wild Horses by the Flying Burrito Brothers. I don't think it would go over poorly at all.
Well, maybe you're giving me a good idea to do that, Chris. I could do that in a heartbeat. You know, this band you just mentioned, the band has certainly had some personnel changes over the years, and now as
to say the least, that's an understatement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But now based in Nashville, you've been involved since 2009, and share me with the current lineup of all these extremely talented musicians who are also involved with you and carrying this band's legacy and keeping the new music of the legacy alive.
Oh, yeah, they sure are. It's a treat to work with Tony Paoletta and Bob Hatter and Peter Young. These guys are virtuosos. They're highest level of world-class musician. I'm certain of it. They do sessions on a regular basis, and they're just so adept and tuned in and experienced, and it just goes so smoothly. We've known each other a long time, and so we get that sense. I certainly feel that the personnel in the group couldn't be any better than who's in it right now. Tony on pedal steel knows how to get the different sounds. He's aware of basically everything Sneaky Pete, the original legendary, brilliant steel player of the Flying Burrito Brothers, performed, and he looks out of a creative enough window to not just play some sort of typical stuff. He digs in deeper, and he's fully capable of executing it. Same goes for Bob Hatter on guitar. He's got at his disposal the wherewithal to play like just about anybody in the history. He plays bender like Clarence White. He plays electric 12-string like Roger McGuinn. He just turns to those sensibilities when it fits the song. And then finally, Peter Young just always feels right to me. It just lifts us when we're laying down tracks. And then he's the principal harmony singer in the group. And then furthermore, he was the engineer. He's the engineer at the board when we're recording and mixing and tracking. He's extremely gifted.
Excellent.
So it's a really nice chemistry right now. I'm very, very happy with it.
Excellent. Now you guys have been playing, like you said, you've been playing since the 90s. I got a note here, Mr. Hyde. How do you transition from a band of Mr. Hyde or Chris P. James band and go, let's carry this torch, let's get involved, we love this band, maybe you played certain covers when you guys were playing in Mr. Hyde. How did that all transition into what you have today?
Well, I'd say it started in 1986 when a friend of mine here in Nashville, Argyle Bell, produced and promoted a Graham Parsons tribute that featured as many people who were associated with Parsons and the Byrds and that country rock field we've talked about as he could get on that night. And since many of them were individual singers, or in some cases duets, they also had a stage band, a house band for the night. And I got that job that year, so I played keyboards and sang background and harmony for a whole lot of the acts that night. It was interesting that Argyle asked any potential band member if they could name 5 Graham Parsons songs, and if they couldn't, they wouldn't get the gig. And I didn't have any trouble with that.
You whip it right out going, hey, wait, that's right up my alley.
Yeah, always has been from the earliest age. And so I played in 1986 with the Burrito Brothers, because at that point in time there were only 2 guys calling themselves the Burrito Brothers. It was Jib Gilbo and John Beelan. And so they used the stage band. And then the next year, they returned, and I got the gig again, and that year they recorded, and it came out as an album called Wheels. So starting in 1987, I had the credit on my resume of having been on an album with Burrito Brothers. And as a result, my my position in the music world was up a bit. It was quite a great break for me, probably the best I ever had. And I started working with more and more cool people. I got to work with Bobby Bear for many years. And so I wound up playing on the International Submarine Band reunion album in the late 80s and on the Graham Parsons Notebook album project in the late 90s. And I was available to be a sub, a fill-in here and there. I got to guest on one album singing a tiny bit. And just kind of in the wings, so to speak, which is how every member of the Burrito Brothers ever got in. There's never been an audition. It's always been, if somebody leaves, which just keeps happening.
It's happened, right?
The nucleus who's going to carry on knows who to get. And my turn finally came in 2009.
Well, timing is everything, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the new album, the Notorious Burrito Brothers, which features 8 original songs and the band's version of The Dark End of the Street from the Guided Palace of Sin. And I mean, my goodness, Chris, the harmonies. I'm a lyric guy, so I love a lot of the songs, and I get it. I mean, the band, the ensemble playing is very tight. I love Bring It. I love Sometimes You Just Can't Win. I love Burn My Fingers on the Coffee Pot. Toast is cold, but the orange juice is hot. That is really cool.
I tend to think, and I don't think it initially was intended this way. That lyric was in Graham Parsons' notebook.
Really?
John Nuis John Nuis, his friend from the International Submarine Band, who I made friends with, he's passed away now, but back when, around 2000 or 1999, somewhere in there, was when they put together an album project from a notebook that John had, and I got involved, and I made photocopies of some of them, and I hope to
incorporate
complete them into songs.
Yeah.
That lyric was in the notebook, which we later discovered was essentially a paraphrasing of Graham writing from memory a tune from his friend Fred Neal, the folk singer who wrote Everybody's Talking and The Dolphin. And so we wound up giving credit to both Graham Parsons and Fred Neal as the lyric authors, because there were enough little cases where Graham changed something and put in a couple lines here and there, and also, even though it was more Fred Neal's work, we later discovered, it never would have gotten all over our radar, and we wouldn't have turned it into the song had it not been in Graham's notebook. So they both get the credit for it. But anyway, back to the orange juice. The toaster's cold and the orange juice is hot made me think, Graham's trust fund from Snively Grove's orchards there in Florida, the multi-million-dollar producer who Graham was I guess grandson of the guy who was the Big Daddy, and he famously had money coming in all along, and that came from oranges. So when it says the orange juice is hot, I can't help but think, yeah, it sure was, wasn't it, Graham?
And boy, what a resource to have. I mean, to have the notebook and looking at what he was thinking and his notes and like little lines like that.
I doubt that was. I think that's me applying something, but it's fun to think that way.
Yeah, no, it's all really good. I'm not a musician, Chris, but I'm a dinosaur. I'm an analog guy. And explain to me how was the recording session with your bandmates? Were you guys all together in Nashville? I mean, today's technology, you can send a WAV file back and forth across the pond. Were you guys all together?
No, we did it old school. We all recorded together.
There you go.
100% true. There's examples of overdubbing, but that's actually 100% true of the old days. I mean, we tracked together. We played the tracks and came up with the body of the music, all playing together. And then other things were added on, little touches, maybe
right.
Guitar solos improved or added up. Tony, more than anyone else, had his overdubs, which is very, very in keeping with the original concept of the Flying Burrito Brothers. I remember hearing in interviews where Graham almost exasperatingly said Sneaky would put 20 overdubs on them, and could have been exaggerating, but he was the mad scientist who put the more crazy sounds on the early stuff. And so Tony's certainly welcome to explore those kind of avenues. And then Bob playing both bass and guitar, and even if all he played was guitar, would be doing some overdubbing, because you usually want more than one guitar. You want a rhythm bed there, and then you want the licks or the solos and stuff. So it's both, but it's certainly not like not being together and building tracks with wave files and stuff. It's more hands-on. It's the old school way.
Yeah, I mean, I would just be afraid that you would miss some magic. I get it. Technology is great. That you could, today's world, studio time, is expensive. Trying to get everybody together is expensive. How much time do you have in the studio? Back in the day with the label going, like, put out something, hurry up. But I think about it like, man, if I was a musician, no matter what instrument, singer, keyboard, whatever, I would want everybody together, because I would be afraid that, whether Tony says, let's try this, or Bob says, let's try that you miss that magic that really fits in.
I agree 100%. Plus, that's where being so efficient and experienced and capable comes into play. These guys don't have to diddle around. They tend to have a solid concept of what they're doing, and we do too. We pre-record. We demoed everything. We got together and got ourselves ready and learned what we intend to do when we go into the studio. But your quote, your sentence about missing some magic, I couldn't agree more. I just know, I can feel it in my heart, that the mood, the overall appeal of the track is enhanced greatly by the fact that Peter Young was sitting there at his drum set playing while we put these tracks down. We felt this thing off each other. It was not like, we know this is the tempo, so let's have a click track, and
right.
You're going to add some percussion, and you're going to add some drums. No. It was all played so that we felt that thing off each other, and that is the magic.
Right, and you could see the magic of the body language. That you could feel how the song has grown, and you feel how it's, you got the vibe. Wait, we got something here. Whether it's Bring It, whether it's Gravity, whether it's, Heart's Desire, you just know. I just think it's important. I like to ask. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted. We have a conviction about it, the strong feeling that that's what we're about. That's the message we intend to portray, and the way we want people to realize that we absolutely do it. We are the farthest thing from this way that so much of popular music is made today, where it's one guy building a track with sequence.
And just like that, we get disconnected. What a day for phones. Okay, we're gonna continue the conversation with Chris right now. I'm like, what?
Well, I just completed a whole thought and then realized I was talking to nobody.
I'm like, no, what's going on? Something, I'm like, no, and all of a sudden something clicked on, and I'm like,
we went away. I remember where I thought I heard somebody beeping in, and obviously now that's not what happened. It was us losing each other.
But the point again was I always like to ask the question. I mean, just my curiosity and you know what? And folks say, you know, we sometimes, you know, we got a guy that lives in London and part of the band, so we have no choice to use the technology, and it works. But for the most part, 90% of the folks always say, "Trust me, if we can get everybody together, that's the meat and potatoes. That's the home run."
Oh yeah, well, and plus the idea of using that technology to add to the ease of finishing the product or getting it done where that's not your focus, except your main plan of attack, is fine. That's beautiful. It's not all or nothing. But I was saying when we were lost there for a minute that it's important to us at the statement to be musicians who interact among each other, working together, as opposed to the way so many tracks are now made in popular music where it's just one guy in a studio starting with a electronic drum sound and adding fake sounding bass and all these synthesized instruments, and then getting somebody to talk or sing over it. We're the opposite.
Yeah.
I don't even like calling it old school. I don't want people who listen to think, oh, listen to the old fogies. There's nothing about it that should be considered old-fashioned or out of date. I would like to believe that at some point the cycles come back to people wanting to hear actual human beings playing music together.
Absolutely. I totally agree, Chris. And, you know, to talk about timing, as you mentioned before, the challenge of releasing the album, and you got past all that, and then, bang, we got this COVID-19. So I can imagine you guys are biting at the bit. What's your thoughts, your first live show with an audience once you get the green light and you can showcase some of these great songs?
Well, it'd be sweet. We aimed our goals overseas, thinking that it's quite possible that we could get a higher degree of attention and respect from audiences there who recognize the legacy of the group, coupled with the talent of people who are playing a uniquely American art form, and in much the same way that the black jazz guys from the late 50s and 60s went overseas, went to Europe, guys like Dexter Gordon, and found really good success and acclaim, while at home they were almost ignored and they were treated with prejudice. It occurred to us that we don't exactly fit in any of the real prevalent niches in the fast food USA right now. Now, I don't mean to, I have to watch putting that wrongly, because we've had a lot of nice attention in the United States, and, you know, I'm getting it right now from you. I don't have disdain for it. I just think there's a chance that we could sort of cruise easier. So we got our deal in England, and boy, that went pretty darn seamlessly. It was sweet. A guy named Bob Boiling arranged it for us, and we weren't even but a little over halfway through the album, and he happily explained to us that he'd gotten us our deal, and it's a major deal. It's SFM worldwide distribution. That's Brian Adams' company. He's not the singer from Canada. He's a guy with the same name as we mentioned earlier, the
right.
Common name situation. But
you know, it's funny that you say that, because I interviewed Chip Taylor. I don't know if you remember Chip, and he says, you know, the same thing. He says, there's something about Europe. He says, my shows sell out in Europe and Sweden, and I got a big fan base out there. Not to say it doesn't happen in the States, but there's something about that over there. And I said, really? He's like, yeah, he goes, I can't put my finger on it, but I know between my booking agent and my management, we always, if I come out with a new album, I always hit the UK, the Europe end first, and it breaks me through, and then I come in here and I play the States, and I met Chip over here locally at Daryl's Hall's venue here, Daryl's house, where I met Chip. He lives in New York City, but look, 80 miles.
People say I look like him. Like Daryl Hall.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure, like I said, you're biting at the bit to get to wherever to get on stage and to share the great tracks. I'm certainly going to look forward to... you got me thinking, man. I got to play a little Wild Horses and a little Bring It, or, sometimes you just can't win. I got no problem doing that, keeping new music alive here on the radio airways.
Oh, thanks. We regard that album as it's a concept album. It flows from the get-go. The first song is the invite in. Come on, join us. Let's bring it on. The last song is the finale that ties everything up and makes allusions to everything that happened in the album before, and many significant lyrics and things to do with the history of rock. And then there's the pacing, the acrostic, which is a poetic tool that uses the first letter of each line in the lyric to spell out a secret message.
Wow.
Acrostic. If you read down the left-hand column of the lyric sheet of the pretty song Acrostic, which I wrote for my mother, who passed away.
Okay.
So, it says, make us famous, we need to be heard. So I was hoping that would have some sort of internal strength to it, and who knows? That's kind of crazy hippie thinking, maybe, but I don't believe anybody has ever written an acrostic as a lyric before. I don't know of one.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, so it was an interesting thing to do. And then we got like a 10 or 11 minute suite in there based on a melody Bob Hatter and I started many years ago called Love is a River. In my mind, in our minds, the whole approach of the Notorious Burrito Brothers is a full listening experience, an album to hear as a whole.
Well, I definitely love it. I'm going to play a bunch of tracks. It's available right now on all the music outlets. I know Amazon and Apple. Is it on Spotify and all that too, Chris?
Yes, because this SFM is so well placed, it's everywhere that people are used to looking for albums.
Excellent. And certainly for more information on Chris and the
website.
Guys, go to the website, theburritobrothers.net. Chris, I hope you enjoyed the chat as much as I have.
Oh, I certainly have. It's been a pleasure.
Nah, it's all good. Much success, man. I can't wait to catch you guys on the road and get you up here in New York. And I'm going to keep playing the tracks and get it out there. It's all good, my man. It's all good.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much, Pat.
Our man, Chris B. I keep saying B. Chris P. James. Chris P. as in Pat James from the Burrito Brothers.
Chris P. Burrito.
Chris P. Burrito. Only on WBXO and the Pat Soundbites. I love it.